It is 2 o'clock, and I know people are still logging on, but I also know that you all are nonprofit fundraisers, and that means that you are busy and that often, especially these days, you're probably wearing a lot of hats. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Before we get super into things, I want to say hello to two very special groups of people. One, I see some familiar names on the attendees list, so I know some of you work with QGIve. So Erica is going to talk a lot about some different fundraising tactics you can use. If you have any questions about how this works with QGIve and how we can help you make this happen, let me know. I'll get you in touch with the right person. If you are not using QGIve, that's totally fine too. Everything you're going to learn here today applies to you as well. Regardless if you use to raise money online, you're going to get some fantastic information out of today's webinar. Speaking of fantastic information, I will say that we are recording this webinar, and I'm going to send you an email tomorrow morning that will contain a link to this recording, and it will also contain links to some other resources that tie in with what we talk about today. And keep an eye on your inbox also, because Erica is going to send you an email with some worksheets and some other tools that you can use as you kind of work through some of the methods she talks about today. If you have any questions, I am standing by to answer those, and we'll have time for Q&A at the end of the session. So drop any questions in the questions box. And then if you are a Twitter fan, we're going to be tweeting some highlights from this webinar over on our Q webinar hashtag. Feel free to join us. And then if you are a Twitter fan and you like fundraising best practices and tips and strategies, do give us a follow at QGIve, and then follow Achieve Causes as well. They share a ton of awesome information. I am so excited to have Erica talk to us today. I know that we are moving into a very busy time of year, and it has been a wacky year as it is. So if you're feeling stressed out, don't worry. Erica is going to share some awesome strategies you can use to do a lot while mitigating that stress. So Erica, take it away.
Perfect. Can you see my screen, Abby?
Yes.
Perfect. Amazing. So thank you so much. My name is Erica Linquanti. I'm really excited to talk with you all today. And as Abby mentioned, if at any point you have questions, definitely put them in the chat. We're going to make sure there's time to answer all of them. Also, at the end of this presentation, I will give you my email. If you ever want to talk to me further, have more questions, I'm always happy to hop on a call and chat it through. So I am here for you. But today we want to talk about maximizing your efforts while minimizing stress, a busy person's guide to crushing online fundraising goals. So again, as I mentioned, my name is Erica Linquanti. I'm the Director of Marketing at Achieve. We're a digital agency specializing in nonprofits. So we do primarily web design and web support. And then on my end of the house, we do all different kinds of online digital marketing and fundraising for nonprofits. We also are a strategic partner of QGIve, which we love. We love QGIve. Lots of our clients use QGIve. So we offer some exclusive discounts to QGIve clients. So if you are a QGIve user and you're looking for some marketing help or some web help, feel free to check out achievecauses.com/QGIve and see if there's any offers on there that may apply to you. If you're not a QGIve client, but you're thinking about it, or you're interested in some of the offers we have, still feel free to just reach out to us. If you decide that it's a good fit, we can help you make the transition to QGIve as well as part of the project. So that is something available to you. Today we're going to do a couple different things. We're going to talk about, first of all, what you need to succeed online. We're going to help you find your online fundraising baseline. A lot of times when I sit down with new clients, they have no idea what their metrics and averages are. So I think that's really important in terms of making goals and figuring out where you need to place your efforts. So we're going to figure out how to find that. We're also going to find how to make realistic goals based on your historical data. Saying that you want to raise $500,000 online next year is an amazing goal, but if you're only averaging about $20,000 a year right now, that's going to be a stretch. So we want to make sure that we're setting you up for success with realistic goals that you can hit. And then we're going to talk about actual tactics to reach those goals. There's kind of three main buckets we want to focus on, which is going to be web traffic, your donation conversion rate, and then your average donation amount. And as I mentioned, we'll definitely ask questions at the end and hopefully get some answers. If I ever don't have an answer, I'm not ashamed to tell you, but hopefully I can point you in the direction of someone who may know the answer for you. But before we do that, I would love for everyone to kind of take inventory. We're talking about how to minimize stress and maximize efforts. But one thing I like to do every day, just kind of take inventory. How stressed are you feeling? How do I feel today? Because it's totally going to affect your productivity at work too. You're not a robot. So if you want, we're going to do this in real time. You can go to menti.com. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on your desktop. If you enter in this code, you can actually vote in real time and tell me how you are feeling today. Totally anonymous. So if you're SOS, don't be ashamed. It's okay. We've all been there. But feel free to go ahead and vote and tell me what you think. I'll go ahead and refresh this. Abby, where would you say you are today?
It took me a minute to find my unmute button. I'm doing pretty okay. I've put myself down as a number one. I would be really great if I'm trying to think what would take me to the really great area. If I could finish the ebook that I'm working on right now, I would be doing great. But I still got an ebook to write. So
I gotcha.
Man, it looks like some of you guys are doing okay. That's exciting. I'm glad.
That's good. Good. That's great. I like that everyone's doing okay. And it's Thursday, so good deal. I'm going to go back to this. Feel free to keep voting if you want. It's kind of fun, but totally not necessary. Sounds like everyone's doing okay. But one thing I do want to address before we dive into this is sort of the elephant in the room. And I hear this a lot from my clients lately about their stress level. And, you've got COVID and election cycles and homeschooling kids and hybrid and all these things going on, and you're trying to hit all of your goals. So want to address the elephant in the room, and that is simply, you are not a robot. Some days you're going to feel great, you're going to be able to take on the world, and then other days it's going to be tough, and that's okay. I found for me throughout my career, my background is in tech and luxury hotel marketing, and both of those seasons of my life, I was a total workaholic, and eventually I burned out. And through that process, I learned that I really need to make space for myself in order to actually accomplish my work goals. So want to address the elephant in the room. You are not a robot. I would say a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about, they're ideas, but it's not advocating that you do all of them tomorrow or you take it all on all at once. You got to take off bite-sized chunks that you can accomplish. And then one more kind of thing I want to address, you cannot be everything to everyone. That is a marketing concept. When you're in business school and you take your very first marketing class and you learn about unique value propositions, your professor probably talks about this marketing principle of you cannot be everything to everyone. But I found that this applies to life as well and to nonprofits. You have a very specific mission that you're trying to accomplish. You can't try to do everything. But also in your personal life too. You can't be everything to everyone. So if you're feeling stressed or you're overwhelmed with work, just remember you're doing the best you can. And it is a global pandemic and you're not a robot. So it's okay to not be okay sometimes. So without further ado, I want to kind of dive in. First thing I want to talk about is what you need to successfully succeed online. The first thing, and this is really, really obvious, but a really great website. This is when we did that long ago for United Way of Broward County. I really loved this one because it's just so beautiful visually. But some of the things that, if you're kind of taking inventory of your own website, these are kind of things you can look for. Do you have really beautiful imagery on your site? Is your donate button very, very obvious? Is it clear what you want people to do? Bonus points, if you have some video content, that's always going to be more impactful. Again, are you showing very clearly, how to get help or how to support the organization if that's an action you need people to take? Are you clearly explaining what do you do? A lot of times when we do a website redesign project and we're taking inventory of what our clients have existing. A lot of times what we do page or our history page, it's just paragraph after paragraph after paragraph of text. And that's really boring for most people. They're probably not going to sit there and read all of that. So what I really loved about this United Way of Broward site is you've got these little statistics, and it's all kind of simple tabs people can kind of sort through if they're interested, making it really clear what you do and why without, feeding them a novel to figure out what the heck you do. So make it really simple to figure out what you do. I also love impact stories, success stories. Why do people give? They give because they think there's a problem. They believe that you're solving it, and they believe that by supporting you, they are in turn helping to solve the problem. So you want to make sure you're showing some of those solutions as well on your website. So great website's going to be really important. Even more than that, Google did a really interesting study a few years ago that opinions about your website are formed within 50 milliseconds or less, so not even a full second. So really, really quickly, people are making a judgment about your organization based on your website. And even further than that, 95% of first brand impressions relate to your website design. So it's really, really important. Right now, if your website, doesn't have some of that imagery, doesn't have a clear call to action, maybe it was just kind of thrown up on a Wix site years ago and you've left it, definitely want to try to revisit that if you're focusing on online giving, because your website's really, really crucial to how people perceive you. Once you have a really great website, obviously you need to get people there, right? So how do you do that? There's lots of different ways. These are just some of them. Of course, you've got some of the obvious ones like word of mouth. You're at an event, you give someone a business card, maybe your volunteers, tell a friend about how much they love your organization. That's definitely one way. SEO is another option, of course. People are searching for, the services that you provide. Thought leadership is really great. That would be, writing different articles, whether that's news publications or on your own blog to kind of drive people to your site. Organic social media, email, obviously, when you're talking to your supporters. You have a Google grant. AdWords can be really great. I like to play with that and thought leadership together as well. If you do a lot of thought leadership and you have a Google grant, maybe consider start putting some ad spend behind those articles to drive more search traffic and get more people on your site. And then one of the big tactics that we do at Achieve is paid social advertising. That's been huge, and it's really affordable as well. So that's definitely something you'll need to succeed. I will caution that whenever you are trying to do any type of marketing, you should be tracking where your traffic is coming from. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do that, but some of the ones that I would always recommend, putting a Facebook pixel on your website, even if you don't have any use for it in the near future, it's going to collect data over time that you can leverage. It's going to be really helpful, but it'll also help you track conversions and traffic. Google Analytics is the obvious one. As a bare minimum, at least have Google Analytics set up on your website. You can take that a step further with Google Tag Manager, using tracking links. I use Google URL Campaign Builder all of the time, so that way if I'm sending on an email, I can have my conversions set up on Google Analytics, and then I have this custom tracking link, so I can go back and say, hey, that email, we raised $1,117.23. You want to be able to track the results. So if you're going to drive traffic, that's really important. And then the last real thing you need to succeed is make it easy to donate. These are some examples from QGive, but I know there's a lot of different forms out there. Kind of the main things you want to look for, you want to make sure that you can have custom donation tiers. That's really, really important. And then also mobile friendly, whether that's text to give or even just an embedded form that you can put on a mobile friendly website. We're definitely seeing an increase of more mobile giving in the past few years. So if you're not mobile friendly, that's a huge missed opportunity. So that's kind of the baseline of what you need. So let's look at finding your specific online fundraising baseline. So to do that, there's 3 key metrics you should know. The first one, you should know the number of website visitors that you have each year on average. You should definitely know what your donation conversion rate is. So that's going to tell you, if you have a 1% conversion rate, it means, you need for every 1,000 people rising to your site, X amount are going to donate, right? And also you're going to want to know your average online donation amount. Is it $30? Is it $250? What's the average gift for your organization? That can help dictate some of the giving tiers that you're going to recommend to people and stuff. So if you're going, hey, Erica, that sounds great, but where the heck can I find these metrics? Glad you asked. Again, this is why trackability is so key. Google Analytics is going to be able to tell you most of this. Facebook Pixel, you can get a lot of this information from. Your fundraising software can definitely show you this. For example, this is a QGIve dashboard. You can go and put in, give me all of my data from last year, and it'll tell you how much money was raised, how many donations happened, and what your average gift size is. You've already got the bulk of that right there, and then you can just go to Google Analytics and pull your web traffic numbers, and there you go, metrics discovered. Also, too, if you're using any kind of donor management software, like, I know QGIve integrates with Bloomerang, or, if you're using Blackbot, or, whatever you have going on, should be able to pull a lot of these metrics from there as well. So that's why having trackability is really, really important. And again, if you're doing anything online, as a bare minimum, have your Google Analytics set up. So let's do a hypothetical. I pulled some easy numbers for us to kind of play with. This would be how you would find your average baseline for the year. So you can build out some benchmarks. So the first thing you're going to look at is your number of website visitors from last year. So let's say we had 10,000 visitors on our nonprofit website. And then let's say we have a really good donor conversion rate. We have a 2% donor conversion rate. The industry average is about 1%. Just so you're aware. So depending on where you're at, if you're a little bit lower, that's okay. If you're higher, amazing, good for you. But let's just say for hypotheticals that we have a pretty decent donor conversion rate. We've got 2%. So that means on average, we have about 200 donors a year. And then let's say our average online donation amount is $100. And that's kind of in line with industry average. Industry average is a little above that. So on average, we would assume that our annual online donation amount is $20,000 from website. So that's going to be our hypothetical baseline. Now that we have the baseline, let's go ahead and figure out how to set goals that are going to be realistic and achievable for you. So we already found our baseline. We want to come up with our goals for next year. This is kind of a question, usually when I teach this as a workshop, I sort of ask people, what do you think is a realistic goal? And a lot of times I hear people say things like, oh, we want to double it, or we want to do 50% better. And that's really amazing. But the amount of effort to do that usually is not sustainable. So sometimes what I see, you have these really aggressive goals that aren't realistic, is you'll do a campaign and spin your wheels for a couple months, raise a bunch of money, and then you're so exhausted by the end, you can't maintain the level of effort and it drops off. So we don't want to do that. We want to set you up for success. You're not a robot. It is a global pandemic. You've got a million other things to do. Let's set a realistic goal. So what if you increased those three buckets, your number of website visitors, your conversion rate, and then your average donation by only 10%? Not a lot. It's going to take work, but it's not crazy to increase those things by 10%. Where would that get us? Well, it's going to get you pretty far. You're going to have 33% growth just in 1 year by only doing those three things slightly better than what you're doing now. So here's I will also include a worksheet. You can kind of start to do some of these benchmarkings yourself. But it's really simple. If we have a 10% increase goal, just multiply, your last year column by 0.1, add it in and multiply it up, and that's it. So we went from $20,000 to a little over $26,000 in 1 year, 33% growth. But what if we did that again the next year? This is when it starts to get exciting. This is when the snowball builds. So we've already got, first year, second year. Now, if we do it another year, that's 77% growth. So now you've almost doubled in 2 years. But again, you're only increasing your level of effort by about 10%. Now, what if you did it one more time? One more time. That's where the big growth comes from. So you've more than doubled in 3 years. You went from $20,000 a year to $47,000 a year. And again, only by doing these things a little bit better than you are now. And I found that approaching online giving and marketing plans from this perspective is a lot more palatable for a lot of organizations. You're trying to do so many things. Saying we want to double our money, that's great. And if you can do it in 1 year, amazing. But if you can't, don't want you to be discouraged. Set up realistic goals. It's going to be a lot easier for you. So homework alert. I already mentioned it. If you go to achievecauses.com/free tools, There is a free worksheet download. You can go through and you can find your own baseline and you can come up with what your realistic goals could be. Maybe if you're looking at that going, oh my gosh, we've been trying so hard to increase our web traffic and it's barely moving, 10% a lot. Maybe 5%. That's okay. Figure out goals that make sense for you. But that's kind of a blank worksheet that you can go through and fill it out and find your baseline. So that is available to you. Once you have your goals, this is where it really gets fun. Let's talk about different ways to achieve your goals. Now, there's going to be a million different tactics out there, and every day there's a new blog and a new webinar telling you about the latest thing that you can do. And it's all great and it's all valid, but if you're overwhelmed, I find that it helps to pick a few things and focus on that instead of trying to do everything and not really getting much done. So you have your goals. You want to do 10% better on those 3 sections. Now what? Well, we already kind of talked about it. The first step would be to try to increase your web visitors. And you can do this a lot of different ways, but I've kind of broken it down into a few different buckets that we can kind of talk about. The first one would be content strategy. So this would be things like if you're emailing your supporters regularly with updates or your newsletters or maybe a really great impact story. Maybe that's your organic social media content where you're talking about things going on and directing people back to your website occasionally. Paid social media is huge. This is definitely one of the biggest tactics that I see move the needle for our clients. There's so many things you can do now with paid social. You can, using your own data as well. Like on Facebook, you can take your donor database list and you can upload that to Facebook. They'll use their big data tools and match them with actual Facebook and Instagram users, and then you can send those people specific message ads. You can also do lookalike audiences of that. You can make audiences based off of your web traffic. You can do lookalikes of that. There's a lot of really detailed stuff that you can do. And it's really affordable way to really move the needle in terms of web visitors. But another piece of content strategy too could be PR. If you're sending out press releases or if you're working with an agency that's helping you to get media placements and things, of course, it's going to help maybe drive web traffic, especially if it's digital publication versus, in the normal newspaper or something. The next kind of bucket I like to focus on would be optimizing search. So that's going to be things like SEO or thought leadership, which we talked about. If you have Google grants for AdWords, that's another great way. I will caution that typically I do not see Google AdWords for donation isn't always the most impactful just because the user behavior is really different. On Facebook, if I'm serving you an ad, or Instagram or Twitter or even LinkedIn, you're getting something in your feed and you have the choice if you want to click through or not. On Google, someone already has to be searching for something. So people probably aren't going to be sitting down going, where to donate to Alzheimer nonprofit near me, right? That's just probably not a strategy that people are, or a behavior people are going to be taking. However, they may be searching for information about Alzheimer's care. So if you're kind of in health and human services in that space, writing a lot of articles about that and then placing your AdWords behind it will definitely help get more traffic to your site. Another option would be to leverage what you have, peer-to-peer, whether that's a campaign looking for donations, or sometimes if you have some really dedicated volunteers doing a peer-to-peer campaign that's more awareness-based, asking your volunteers to share certain articles or, social media posts, or, maybe forward an email to their friends, whatever the action you want them to take, that can definitely expand your network. And it doesn't always have to be about money. You can kind of get new people interested and then cultivate them over time. Strategic partnerships can be great if there's, organizations in the community that you partner with, or, corporate sponsors, asking them to share things on your behalf and get people on your website can be great. Influencer campaigns, and when I say influencer, that doesn't have to be the, million followers on Instagram, fitness girl in the bikini. That could be as simple as, some of your volunteers that, if they have a pretty good social network, getting them to do a takeover on your Instagram feed, or you doing a takeover on theirs and driving traffic. That can be really helpful. And then also segmenting your email list as well, kind of leveraging that network to increase traffic. So again, that kind of plays with paid social. If you can create really unique audiences of these are my volunteers, these are my donors, these are the people that we serve, segmenting it out, and then leveraging that network in different ways. But even just how you approach the types of emails that you send can definitely help with that. And again, if you have any questions on this, toss it into the chat and we will get to you at the end, I promise. Did want to call out some benchmarks, and these slides will all be sent to you, so you'll have this for reference. But when you're going through and you're coming up with your goals and you're finding your baseline, I did want to give you a few kind of industry averages as well. These are all from the M&R benchmark study last year. But the majority of web traffic is coming from mobile users. So if you do not have a mobile-friendly website, now is the time to start thinking about how to implement that. It's a huge missed opportunity, especially I would say in the past when we've worked with clients on marketing, we've done things like paid social. If they didn't have a mobile optimized website, we had a much higher bounce rate. People would get the ads, they were interested, they'd like, they engaged, they would click through, and then they would bounce because it was too hard to navigate. So definitely make sure you're mobile friendly. Another call out, about 1% of website visitors typically make a donation. So that means anybody who's landing on your website, about 1% of them will actually go through and donate. That's kind of an industry average. So if you're above that, amazing. If you're below that, I've tried to at least get to that 1%. And then also on average, nonprofits raise about 83 cents per website visitor. So that's another way to tell you where you're at in terms of how much money is coming in annually. If you're getting the traffic and you're getting the donations, but on average your overall is less than that, you might want to kind of focus on increasing your average donation size. Another thing I wanted to call out was amplifying with paid spend. We already talked about this. This is definitely the tactic that I see works really, really well for our clients to drive traffic, get donations, raise awareness, etc. But the reason why specifically for Facebook is, I hear a lot of times, hey, we have 10,000 Facebook followers, but how do we reach them? We're posting all the time and the same 20 people comment and engage. What's going on? A lot of that's the algorithm. The algorithm has changed a lot in the past 2 years. Right now, only about 1 to 3% of your Facebook fans even see your content. So that's why paid spend is really, really important. And when I talk about Facebook, I'm talking about Facebook and Instagram simultaneously. They're kind of one and the same. And even how you would manage ads for that would be through Ads Manager, all one and the same. If you want to kind of get into the Facebook stuff, I would recommend budget-wise at least $5 a day per campaign. And that's on the really, really low end. But if you want to start playing around with it, that's a good way to go about it. Did want to call out, though, please don't use the boost button on Facebook if that's how you're doing paid advertising. It's easy, but it doesn't give you nearly as many targeting options. You can't upload your donor list, you can't retarget based on web traffic, etc. So if you don't have one already, I would definitely recommend that you set up a Facebook Business Manager account. It has Ad Manager within that has tons of ad placements, tons of campaign types, lots of objectives, lots to do. It can be a lot of work if you've never done it before. Certainly, there's lots of vendors out there, including Achieve, that can help you with this. Or if you want to DIY, Facebook Blueprint is a great free resource from Facebook itself. Do not pay $199 for the Ads Manager course that some random person on the internet is telling you. Facebook has a course and it is free. Called Facebook Blueprint. You can learn everything you've ever wanted to learn there, or you can hire someone if you don't have the time or the interest. So there's that. Next bucket we want to talk about, again, kind of step 2. So we want to drive people to the website. That's great. They're going there. Once they get there, we need to increase their donation conversion rate. So again, we want to do this a couple of different ways. I've broken it out into a few different buckets again. The first one, most important one, make it easy to give. Do not make it hard. You want quick load times. You want clear CPAs. You don't want them to have to click through your website to figure out how the heck to donate to you. I sat down and did an audit the other day, and the nonprofit had a donation process where you went to their donation page and there were all these different funds you could donate to, and you had to click on each one to learn about it, and then you had to pick which one you wanted, and you had to add it to your cart, and then you had to click away and go back to the cart, and it was just a crazy process. People do not made it to be that complicated. It's not like shopping on Nordstrom where you're going to add 20 things to your cart and then go back and delete most of it before you place an order. You know, if someone's coming to your site to donate, they just want to give you money, make it easy for them. So simple donation forms are really important. Text to give, definitely a good opportunity, especially if you're running like an end of year campaign or something really specific, maybe it's COVID relief, you know, and you're running radio ads and things, something that says, you know, text this number now to donate, that might be more helpful. Also, if you don't have one already, setting up your Facebook donation account to use Facebook and Instagram for donations. Make it easy to give. Make it easy. That would be my number one piece of advice to increase conversion rate. But some of the other things that will help you as well on your website would be compelling content. We already talked about this in the beginning with the United Way example, but having really great imagery, having a great video, you know, maybe it's fun animations or GIFs, you know, impact stories, paid social asks that are telling a story, anything to kind of compel people and showing people what you do is going to help. And then also make it tangible. Is the goal clear? Is it really confusing of we're trying to do this, that, and the other thing, or is it we need to raise X amount of money so we can do Y? If you can associate money with impact, that's always going to be more compelling for people. And also kind of make sure you're highlighting what the problems and the solutions are. You know, you're in the weeds every day and you know what the problems are that your organization is trying to solve. But your average donor, especially a newer donor, may not know all of the details. So tell them, never assume that they know what the problems are. So again, benchmark alerts. So, you know, the average donation page conversion rate is around 17%. So that's not, I landed on your website and now I'm donating. That's once they came to your website, they clicked through the donation page. Now I'm on the donation page. About 17% of people who land there will actually donate. The bulk of that is still coming from desktop for sure. And they contribute to the bulk of revenue. Now, I will say there's been a pretty big increase in that. Like in 2018, based on M&R benchmark report, that bumped up to about 21%, which was a huge leap from the year before. And I would imagine a lot of that has to do with there's just a lot more mobile-friendly tools now. So that's probably a factor I would expect that number to continue to increase. But these are just kind of some benchmarks, again, when you're going through, doing your worksheet, making your goals. This might help you kind of see where your organization is at relative to the industry as well. Another quick call out, if you don't have a Facebook donation account, it's really, really easy to do, but it does take some time. So if you don't have one, to set that up, it's really easy. Just go to facebook.com/donate/signup and just follow the directions when you land there. The good news is that once you have a Facebook donation account set up, not only can you fundraise on Facebook with 0% processing fee, you can also do it on Instagram in a couple different ways. You can do it through Instagram stories, or other people can put it in their stories. You can add a donate button to your profile. You can do it from live streams, or other people can do it for you for live streams. TikTok also has a fundraising option now as well. They do have a small processing fee, but that just rolled out this year as well. So definitely those are some social media tools to take advantage of if you're already on those platforms. Again, we want to make it really easy for people to donate. That's going to help increase your conversion. And again, in general, I think when you're, you know, trying to figure out what your goals are and how you want to talk to people, coming up with a marketing campaign, sometimes I like to go back to the basics and remember why people give. And it's really simple. They recognize or have an affinity and understanding of a problem, and they think that your organization is working to solve that. And then so by supporting you, they're helping to solve the problem. So again, empathy sustains charity. If you're ever not sure, you know, how to word an email or put together a graphic for your virtual event, try to put your hat on a little bit and think about why is somebody giving to you and what might compel them. Make it about them. And then the last kind of bucket, again, we want to focus on, so we've got people on our website, that's great. We've got them on the donation form and they're converting at a higher rate, amazing. Now what's kind of the last thing that we can do to help increase our online fundraising by about 10%, we're going to try to increase the online donation amount, or the average donation amount. So again, a couple of different ways you can do this. First one's donation forms. The easiest thing you can do to improve your online donation amount would be to lower your processing fees. So if you're on Stripe or you're on PayPal right now and you're paying the percentage for that, get off of that. There's so many great donation forms out there. QGive has a processing fee, but I believe last time we did a check, it was like 70 or 80% of all donors covered the processing fees for you. So that's so much savings right off of the top, and you didn't even have to do anything. But there's a lot of other options out there with lower processing fees as well. So that's something easy that you can do that's going to increase your online donation amount. Do you have, when you're looking at your donation form, kind of seeking inventory, do you have the option for people to do recurring gifts? Do they have the option to do matching gifts through their employer maybe? Is there a thermometer? If it's a really specific campaign, are you kind of encouraging people to donate because you're close to the goal, right? The psychological side of that. All of those things on your donation form are going to help. But the next one, not quite so obvious, would be engaging donors. So engage with them year round. It doesn't mean that you're asking them for money year round, but they want to hear from you outside of that. I give to a lot of different organizations, and definitely the ones that I give more money to are the ones that communicate with me regularly. The ones that, email me right before end of year, I write them kind of the standard check as always, and I move on. But I have a sneaking suspicion if they told me what they were working on more often or just said thank you, I probably would give more to them. And I've seen proof of concept of this even with working with our clients. A lot of times we'll do sort of these like thank-a-thon campaigns where it's literally just about showing impact or celebrating the year and going to donors and saying, hey, because of all of your past support, we were able to provide these services, and this is what we did this year. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Nowhere in those messaging are we asking for money, and without fail, every time they go out, we get donations. Because people are excited. They feel like they made a difference, and they want to continue that. So engaging your donors and focusing on them is always really helpful. And then the last one would be kind of reevaluating your giving tiers. Are you using unique donation levels that are really equating money to an actual impact, or are you just kind of sticking with the generic $25, $50, $100 gift? Do you allow for corporate sponsorships? Is there an option to do extras? Maybe it's if you any donation $50 or more, you get the sticker, or the T-shirt, or whatever. And not that I'm always into those type of promotions. But in some cases, it's definitely really impactful. It kind of just depends on what your campaign is. So, maybe with virtual events coming up too, I've seen a lot that are trying to make it a little bit more tangible. So if you're trying to charge for your virtual event, you get some little extras thrown in there, maybe a bottle of wine sent to your house that you can drink while you're watching the live event on your live stream. There's different things you can do to kind of bump up the average donation amount in that way as well. So again, kind of some benchmarks on donation amounts just to kind of see where your organization lines up. The average online donation amount is $106. So if you're above that, amazing. If you're below that, that's okay, something to aspire to. For monthly recurring giving, $23 a month. That's another good metric of, maybe you want to try, if it is $23, again, we're trying to bump it up by 10%, maybe you want to do one that, for $25 a month, you can support XYZ cause, right? To try to get that number a little higher. Another call out for Facebook fundraising specifically, I hear people get really excited about it and they want to do more with it, and that's great. But I do want to caution, it should be in addition to your efforts. It's not going to be a replacement. The average Facebook fundraiser gift is about $31. So it's going to be a little bit lower than average online. A lot of reasons for that. One of the main ones is most of the funds that come through on Facebook are from birthday fundraisers. A lot of times you have someone who really cares about your organization, and then their friends are donating because their friend asked them to. So while I think there's a lot of room for growth on the platform for that type of donations, and definitely something you could do if you're already getting a bunch of birthday fundraisers, maybe you want to do a campaign about that, emailing people the month of their birthday to remind them to donate their birthday to you, or maybe you want to run some ads to people in your community during their birth month. That is a targeting you can easily do on Facebook to encourage birthday fundraisers. That's great, but I just want to caution that it should be part of the mix, not a replacement. Kind of some good benchmarks there. And then again, we kind of talked about this already, but you want to make it tangible. This is an example of a day of giving event that we did about a year ago for a grassroots, I guess 2 years ago now, wow. For a day of giving event. They were a grassroots organization. They didn't have a big donor list. They didn't have a lot of historical online giving. And our goal was to raise $30,000. We ended up raising almost $40,000. But how we did that, we didn't say we wanted to raise $30,000. We said we wanted to help 30 more kids succeed in school this year. We made it a tangible, real impact in the messaging. And then another really creative thing we did with that campaign that I think helped a lot was we equated the giving tiers to tangible impact. So instead of just sticking with your standard, $25, $50, $100, we said, $21 covers a week's after school care, 42 is 2 weeks, 84 is a month, 168 is 2 months, 255 is 3 months. And then of course you had another bucket, so you could do more if you wanted. I think that was really impactful because we saw a lot of people that in the past were maybe in that $50 range, they bumped up to that $84 range. And that's a pretty big bump for them. But it was because we showed them, hey, $42 is 2 weeks. I was going to give 50. Well, at that point, I might as well just cover a whole month, right? So getting creative with your giving tiers can help you increase your average donation size by that 10% goal that we talked about. And your giving tiers too, if you're going to do some of the more standard ones, maybe it's not a custom campaign, it's just sort of your standard donation form. It should reflect your average gift size. If your average gift size is $200, your starting recommendation shouldn't be $25, right? 200 should kind of be that middle tier. Should have something lower, maybe something higher, maybe two higher. That can help too, because it might get people that are used to giving you the 200 and they see the next one is, 350, and if you can equate it to impact, that's even better. Maybe you're going to bump up a lot. You never know. And don't be afraid to test and learn. A lot of what we do at Achieve is A/B testing. So sometimes we'll even create separate landing pages for donations, and we'll drive traffic there, whether it's Google, Facebook ads, a blog, an email, whatever's going on. And we test and we see what the results are based on the giving tier. So play around with it and get real-time results. That's the nice thing about digital. It's not like a billboard where you have to wait a month and see if anything happens. You can see in real time what people are doing. So don't be afraid to play around with the giving tiers. And then homework alert. So we talked about a lot of different tactics that you can do, and I'm sure that there's a million more that I didn't even mention. Again, this is about alleviating stress. So the goal is not for you to go and do all of these things. This is to take inventory of where you're at, what your baseline is, figure out where you need to go next, and then take inventory of what you're doing now that's working, what you're not taking advantage of, and pick, 1, 2, maybe 3 things that you can start doing in the next couple of weeks easily to kind of help these numbers. So again, when you're filling out that worksheet, there is a blank page to kind of fill in some things. Think about, what's the 1 or 2 things that you can take to your team. Doesn't have to be super elaborate. Maybe it's just, hey, right now we're only emailing people twice a year. We want to start doing quarterly. We want to do quarterly updates on top of that. That's really small, but that may make a big change. Or, hey, we're paying a lot for processing. We need to change how we're doing donation forms and donation processing. That'll help lower the cost for us. So we'll have more money in the bank when people do donate. Whatever sounds tangible to you, think about it, come up with a few, and actually try to go do it. I would hate for you to listen to the webinar and go, yeah, that was great, and then go back to work tomorrow later today and nothing ever changes. Definitely want to see you succeed. So give that a little bit of thought. And then final note, I know it's so hard. There's so many things you want to do and want to achieve, but can't be everything to everyone. So control what you can and let the rest go. And I deal with this myself as the director of marketing. There are times where I have this really great vision of, wouldn't it be cool if we did this and that, and then we're going to promote it this way, and we want to do a podcast and all these great ideas, and realistically, we can't accomplish it. We don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the time. If I was going to do it, I'd be working a million hours and burning out, or my team would be burning out, spinning their wheels. Inspiration's amazing, but sometimes you have to be realistic about what can I actually control, what can I actually do that's going to be impactful, and just go do that. It's progress over perfection. Done is better than not doing it at all. So that's my last little bit for you. If you have any questions, I am happy to take them now, but also feel free to email me. My email is really simple, erica@achievecauses.com. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to hop on the phone with you, even if it's for 15, 30 minutes, just to chat about some of the things you're struggling with. I am here for you and happy to help. So without further ado, I'll toss it over to Abby. Do we have any questions?
Thank you. Well, one, I wanted to call out the significance of what you posted there at the end about handling what you can and letting the rest go. One thing I'm hearing from a lot of nonprofit fundraisers is that they have a stressful job anyway, and it has been a stressful year. And current events have made your jobs a lot more difficult. So do take care of yourselves. To use a really tired, probably overused idiom, you can't pour into someone else's cup if yours is empty. Your nonprofits, your donors, and your clients need you, and they need you to be mentally healthy as well as physically healthy. So do take care of yourself. Erica, I
Million percent.
actually, yeah, I actually did have a question, and it has come up a lot actually within the last couple of weeks. So, a large group of people that we see doing a lot of work in the community right now are community foundations.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of community foundations, and then there are a lot of like family foundations who do fundraising, but all of that money is funneled into other nonprofits. And a question I hear frequently from them is that very often they struggle to make a donation and correlate it to a tangible outcome. So they can't say we're feeding a family for a week or this amount of money sends a kid to after school tutoring. What advice do you have for organizations like that struggle with tying a gift amount to a particular outcome?
Yeah. So with that, I mean, it doesn't always have to equate, right? I mean, there's times where sometimes it's as simple as talking about the problems. And I think COVID is a really good example of that. You know, in Palm Beach County, specifically, I'm working with some organizations that are helping people facing eviction and homelessness. You know, and that hasn't really, you know, poverty is an issue, and those services are available all the time, right? You know, we want to keep people in their homes when we can, but there's been a very real need with COVID for that didn't exist before. So there's really no way to equate the impact if you donate to that fund necessarily of, you know, we can tell you what we've done in the past to help people, but what we're trying to do now is that scale so much bigger than anything we've done before. So instead of trying to equate it to, you know, $20 is going to do X, Y, Z, it's talking about, hey, this is what's going on in our community. This is what we're doing to combat it. This is why we think it's going to help. And then just making the ask that way. If it's more of like a foundation where, you know, you're kind of giving to this big pot of money and then it's going to get dispersed, sometimes that can even be with your process. There's really a good one in Palm Beach County. It's not really a foundation, but it's called the Great Charity Challenge. People donate, and then it's actually an equestrian event where nonprofits that are eligible get selected, and then they get assigned a horse team, and then the horse will race on your behalf, and then based on how that horse performs, you'll get a different donation amount. But part of that process is they actually make the nonprofits that participate, give them sort of update reports throughout the year. So that way over time they can say, hey, last year we gave away $1 million, and these are some of the things that happened in our community as a result. So kind of working that into your own process too. If you're, you know, a foundation that's giving to a lot of different organizations, part of that agreement of, hey, you know, if we're going to donate $100,000 to you for XYZ, in 6 months we want a progress report, and then a year from now we want a progress report. Using some of those data points can help too. So hopefully that helps. I know that's kind of a long-winded answer, but if you want me to clarify further, definitely let me know.
I think that helps a lot. I liked the point that you made where even if you can't tie a donation amount to a tangible outcome, you can tie a donation amount to a tangible story. That's a really, really valuable piece of information to keep in mind. I have gotten a couple of questions about the slides. Yeah, we are going to send you the slides and the recording, so don't fret about that. And then Erica, I do have one more question before I let you go. So one thing I've been seeing a lot of, especially as nonprofits have adjusted to fundraising in the COVID world, there are lots of ways for them to get their donors involved, which is really cool. Where I start to get overwhelmed as a donor is when I land on a donation form or I click a donation button and there are like 4 different ways to give.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I land on a donate form and I get a link to an Amazon wish list, and then they ask me to register with Amazon Smile, and then there's an address and a phone number to send checks, and then there's a link to a donation page. If you're a nonprofit and you do have a lot of different avenues that people can use to support you, what's the best way to get people to take advantage of those avenues without overwhelming them?
Yeah, so a couple of different things. So a lot of that is just sort of with your site navigation. So, we do with Achieve, if we're doing a web design, we do actual research into sort of mapping it out and what's the user behavior. But you can do really simple experiments on your own. Have a couple of different people on your staff go to your website and do the process to donate and see what they have to say. Is there too many steps? Is it like the one example that I mentioned where, you landed on the donate page and there was a list of all these different funds and you had to open each one to learn about them and then you had to pick which one you want and add to your cart, right? Like, that's way too many steps. Your donation button on your website should be your online donation form. That's it. So really simple, because if they want to donate, you want to make it really easy for them. So clicking donate, great. Here's a form that makes sense. I'm going to fill it out. I'm going to donate to you online. If you have Amazon Smile or some of those next things, your thank you page after they donate, that's a great place to put it. Hey, Abby, thank you so much for donating. By the way, did you know that we're on Amazon Smile? Make sure to add us as your charity of choice. That way, you can continue to, spread the love for us just by shopping how you normally would. That's a great place to put it. You can also put it in the thank you email that goes out. I would also say if there's multiple ways that people can donate to you or support your organization, maybe if it's like, you have pro bono attorneys because you're a legal aid fund, or you do volunteers like Habitat for Humanity, like all of those things are valuable. Have a section of your website as part of your navigation that's like, ways to support or get involved. And then have those different tabs. That way someone can easily see, mail us a check, donate online, volunteer, Amazon, whatever your options are. So that way they can kind of figure out where they feel comfortable giving. But your donate button should always be simple, and that should go straight to your form, make it simple, take their money. And then if you want to ask them to do other things, that's going to be in your messaging after they give.
I love the idea of adding something like that to your thank you page. That's a great idea. I think a lot of times it's easy to forget how powerful that thank you page can be. It's such a good place to put thank you messages and imaging and requests for other favors like that. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah. And if you're doing a specific campaign too, a tactic I really like to do would be on your thank you page once they donate, having an option to say, thank you so much. We're so close to our goal. Make sure to spread the word to your friends and family. And maybe it's a button that integrates where it's going to automatically share something that you've created on Facebook, or, something so they can easily email an automated email to their friends and family after they donate too. Like, if they're already giving, they care about you. Get them while you have their attention, because there's a lot of competition out there. So while you have them, great time to ask them to do something really easy that's non-monetary that can make a big impact for you over time.
Such a great point. So many good ideas this session. Erica, thank you so much. Everybody who has tuned in, thank you so much. I know you gave us an hour of your day, and that is immense. And I am so thankful that you did that. I hope this session gave you some ideas on how you can identify good goals that will help you increase your fundraising without stressing yourself out too much. I hope you will keep an eye out for the emails that Erica and I are going to send you. We'll send you this recording. We'll send you links to the handouts and worksheets that Erica mentioned. I'll send you some other stuff that you can use in your goal setting and planning. And you should hopefully be equipped to go into the end of your fundraising season a little more confidently than you would otherwise. Everyone, you're great. I'll talk to you all soon. Have a great week. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.